Greetings. Hello. Welcome to Inventor Expert Reacts to Inventor Tutorials. That sounds like a good name. I will run with that. So thanks to everyone who watched and gave positive feedback to the first video in the series. Overwhelmingly positive that one was. Thanks to everyone as well who gave suggestions. This video is based off of a suggestion and a recommendation. If you've got any future suggestions and recommendations based off your own experiences for other tutorials that I should possibly take a look at in this series, which absolutely will be a series now given the positive feedback I got from the first one, then go to the comments, let me know about them. Just paste the link or just let me know the channel name and I'll take a look. And whilst you're down there, mate, hit the like button, share the video around. I need the support. I'm trying to build a channel. And if you're part of the 85% or so of people who watch my videos who aren't subscribed, get subscribed, please, mate. And hit the description as well for ways to support the channel. Okay. Ow. I seem like a better idea in my head. So one of the first channels that I was suggested to divert my attention towards was Engineering Applied. So like I said in the first video, I've never looked at any of these other Inventor channels until now, because I just didn't follow the scene. So Engineering Applied, 2,000 subs, great branding, a lot of videos, mixture of views, actually. 156, 720, 1,000, 2,000 subscribers. Afflicted with the tutorial curse, by the looks of it, which is one of the reasons why I quit. The majority of tutorial searchers on YouTube just use the subscribe button as a bookmark if they even subscribe at all. Hence why 133 views a month ago was a thing. But let's take a look at the most popular videos and pick one to look at. Assembly constraints. Autodesk Inventor. No, that's a bit much. 28 minutes. Drawing time. Adaptive spring. 18 minutes. Let's take a look at this one. I'm one of the 30 AI voices. May, yes! Monetized. Good for you, mate. That's not bad. Pretty good going. Be getting monetized after just 2,000 subs. Good for you, mate. Nice intro. I'm liking that. Good graphic. It's going on for too long, though. Still too long. Just do it. Right, 10-second intro is way too long for a tutorial. I made the mistake a long time ago of having intros that were too long. You've got to move past that. With Engineering Applied. In this video, I'll be showing you how to create and animate adaptive springs within an Autodesk Inventor assembly file. If you tell me all about it, I like you. I like you. He's good. Him, really well spoken, good mic, clear, concise. Speaks with confidence, good first impressions. I like him. If you want more easy to understand and practical content like this, made by an experienced engineer like myself, make sure you like this video, yes, subscribe to the channel, I like experienced engineers, so you don't miss out on any helpful content like this in the future. If you're and he's doing all the YouTube things. As much as that irritates a lot of people, please like, please subscribe. YouTubers have got to do it, man. Nobody grinds on YouTube for no return. You've got to do this. It's just so sad that it just doesn't work. It doesn't get the same return, I should say. On tutorial channels, people don't want to engage with tutorial channels in the same way as they do with entertainment channels. So he's doing the right things, though. He's encouraging engagement. It's all you can do. It's just so sad that it falls on deaf ears for the most part. If you're looking for a specific function, check the description for timestamps. And if you don't find what you're looking for in this video, make sure you check out the other videos in my Autodesk Inventor series playlist, because I know you'll find exactly what you need there. Let's get started. He's got a play. He's linked to his playlist as well. Mate, fair crack. Good for you. Okay, everybody. So here we are in our blank. Oh no! Holy Testicle Tuesday. What is this, mate? You were doing so well. Oh, come on, turn it in. Oh, you're doing so well. That resolution's that's got to stop. If you're using a laptop with like a 1440p resolution, like as good as that is for you, and it is for me, lots of real estate for modeling and stuff, big blue viewport for showing lots of graphics. The viewer's got to be able to see the text on a screen, mate, and that's way too small. The likes of Pluralsight, LinkedIn Learn, and they mandate that the resolution is around 720p at max 1080, and even then they'll be like, can you not turn it down a bit? Because a lot of viewers, they don't like it, so leaning in and like, can I see? I can't see. Right. Yeah, that's too small, mate. Assembly file. And for this particular lesson, I'll be breaking this up into two main examples. Our first example. He's doing everything right, though, like engagement, linking to the playlist, letting people know that there's other stuff that they can look at if they want to. And now he's teeing up what he's going to do. Really good. Consists of a simple application for this adaptive spring. And that is a bottom plate that's stationary. We have a top plate that moves down. And as it moves down, it compresses the spring.
Now, for the second example, we'll be taking a look at a valve train assembly, which consists of a...
Hey, I think you need to stop now. As much as it's well intended, knowing the tutorial audience like I do, I think you'd have lost them by this point, and they'll just skip ahead past this. As much as I didn't like the first tutorial guy that I covered, he did a good job by showing what he was going to present first. Like, is this guy called Alex? Sorry, I'm really apologize. I didn't catch his name at the beginning, but he's doing a really good job of verbally explaining what he's going to be doing, but the tutorial audience are just like, jump in, show me something. I need to solve the problem really quickly. They don't have time for the most part to sit around and listen to a story. Yeah, I think this is the explanation's going on for a bit too long, but if someone's got the time to sit down and listen to this like it was an e-learning course, then this is really good.
Rotating camshaft that pushes up on a follower, which causes
he does say in depth in the title, so that's just YouTube. It doesn't matter what you put in the title or the description. You'll attract criticism from some people who are just like, you're talking too much, get to the point.
Now let's go ahead and get started with our first example. So what we need to do here is we need to go ahead and place a couple of these base plates that allow for the compression of the spring. So we'll go to base plate.
Where is the base? I assume that this is just about the spring, and he's assuming whoever's watching this is capable of modeling a base plate and the sort of ancillary parts required, because he's just jumped straight into this bit. Because this isn't a beginner's tutorial. Like, doing an adaptive spring isn't a beginner's tutorial, so I assume he's assuming someone's capable of doing this bit, which then also sets a baseline for what other assumptions should be made.
Okay, and I'm going to right click to go into my marking menu, and I'm going to click on place grounded at origin because I want this bottom plate to remain stationary. So I'll just click on that.
That's really good. Again, that's what the first tutorial was missing. I'm going to do this a bit sort of demonstration-y verbiage, but by then saying, because it does this, is telling the viewer that's why I'm doing it, and that's what the benefit is. It's really good.
Drop that first one down. Now let's go ahead and drop another one, but let's first rotate this so that the pocket faces downward. So this little opening on the top, we need that to face downward. So we'll right click, rotate about Z.
Oh, bravo! Oh, bravo! See, that's awesome. When you just throw in little tidbits like that, like right click, rotate Z 90, that's not at all relevant to an adaptive spring, but it's just a little bit of information extra chucked in that viewers could appreciate. Like, oh, I didn't know that. That's a bonus bit of information I've just got from you. I'll subscribe, because who knows what else you just throw into your videos, right?
We'll do that twice, and then let's left click to drop it anywhere. Okay, and once we do that, we'll right click to go into our marking menu and click OK. And there we go. Now we need to create a mate between these two components to get them aligned vertically. To do that, I'm going to go up to Constraint, and I'm going to use the mate variant up here in the assembly tab.
I assume this is where a lot of the assumptions come in. He's probably assuming whoever's following this is familiar with assembly constraints.
And I'm just going to select the cylindrical face of both parts, and that aligns both their central axis elements to one another. So then we'll go ahead and click OK.
He's still given like a very quick, brief, concise, clear explanation of what's happening all the same though, which is very well done.
Okay, and then now I can just sort of click and drag this top one up and down, but it remains
and then an explanation of the outcome
with respect to the central axis of these two components. So once we have that set up, we need to set up a mate constraint between this face here and this pocket and this face down here.
Brilliant. That's exactly what you should do. Tell someone what you're going to do it, and then explain why.
Doing that is this will allow us to drive that constraint or the distance between these two components so that we can see the compression of the spring. Let's go ahead and create our secondary mate constraint. So we'll leave the type set to mate, and we're going to set an offset between this face and this top pocket and this face and the bottom pocket. Okay, so I'm going to select those two faces, and I'm going to set this offset to 1.5 inches. Okay, so
I get quite put off when a presenter says okay quite a lot, especially if it's said in a not patronizing but almost a condescending kind of term. Okay, now we're going to do this. Okay, now if you watch here, okay.
Okay, so
it's not meant to be that way. In fact, it's not egregious from his point of view. In fact, it's very light, but some tutorial hosts, when they slip in too many okays, it's really off-putting. But I think as long as it doesn't get any worse, he's just on the cusp of it being just about right, or just about acceptable. But it's one of those fillers that you tend to chuck in. Room for improvement, I think.
This is the uncompressed resting position of the spring. And I'm going to give this a custom name so that I know which mate to drive when we go to actually drive this spring movement. So I'm going to just type mate drives spring. Okay.
Yeah.
And as you're
Again, that's class. It's just not relevant to the adaptive spring, but whilst you're just anecdotally making the constraint, just chuck in, hey, you should be naming your constraints on the fly, and this is how you do it. Another bit of information that you're not everyone's taught this, how to name a constraint as they're being made.
your assemblies get larger, it's always a good idea to apply custom names to your constraint so that you know exactly what you're looking at. So we'll
Exactly,
click
because it's a nightmare once you make you create a constraint. It's called mate 56 by default. It disappears off into the browser, and you're like, oh, where the f is that gone? And you've got to search for it. But if you give it a name straight away, then you'll be able to see it easily or search for it easy.
Okay, and we're going to right click and go to Drive. Now that we're in our Drive menu, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple key parameters. So this first box houses our start parameter. So this is our starting offset between these two faces that I designated. Okay, this is our end parameter. So this is where the top plate will end up in relation to this bottom plate with regards to that offset. So between this face down here and this face up here, it will have an offset of 1 1/4 inches. Okay, let's open up our extended menu by clicking these double arrows. And then I want to just mention here, I have the drive adaptivity option checked. So when you
This feels eerily familiar for some reason.
let's go ahead and start our first sketch. So we'll open up this origin folder under the spring part. Okay, and let's look at a plane that we want to sketch on. So let's actually sketch on the XZ plane. So I will right click on that and go to new sketch. And here we're going to sketch the cross section profile of the spring itself. So this is where I start referencing and projecting the geometry of these other two plates in my assembly. Let's go ahead and start projecting our geometry. So I'm going to click on project geometry.
Finally,
and I'm
someone projected geometry. Finally.
going to project this edge on the bottom of this pocket here, and then this edge on top. Remember, since we're on a two-dimensional plane, when we project these circular elements, it'll just show up as a line, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to put a driven dimension between these two lines, okay? So we're going to put a distance dimension between these two lines, and it's going to give me an error, and it basically says that this dimension will over-constrain the sketch, and it's asking me whether or not I want to leave it as a driven dimension. So I want to go ahead and accept that. And you'll notice around the dimension value, it puts parentheses. That means that this is a driven dimension, meaning that this actually isn't driving the offset. It's the offset that's driving the number inside of this field, okay? But that's really important because we can reference this particular driven dimension, which will then drive the height of the spring. So as this top plate moves down, it changes the overall height of the spring. And that's what gives you...
This is what makes a good tutorial, though. He's having to talk a lot. He could just do it, but if he was to just do it, all of this talking that he's given wouldn't happen. And you need to understand what he's talking about. Like, what's a driven dimension? Why is the driven dimension happening? What's its relevance? That's why the video is 18 minutes long.
Okay, let's go ahead and dimension that. So this is, I want it to be 0.135 inches, and we'll set a distance parameter between the center of this circle and this center axis here.
Probably would have made this is so nitpicky at this point, it doesn't matter, but I would have probably made that construction line a center line, then it would have give you
and I want that to be 0.450.
Set like a diameter dimension.
Okay. And you'll see we have a little extra gap on the side there just to account for
tolerances. This is so good, it's just not worth mentioning.
That looks good to me. So what I'll do is
why is this so familiar?
And now let's take a look at creating the actual coil or the spring itself. To do that, we're going to use the coil command.
Have I done this before?
Now, if you're unfamiliar with how to use the coil command, I encourage you to go watch the video I made on that because it goes through all of the specific details that are associated with using this particular.
Is he gonna coil that? Use the driven dimension as the coil height and then subtract the coil diameter from the total height, because I'm pretty sure I've made a video doing that, because that's what I would have done, and I'm pretty sure I've made it. Fact. Hang on a minute. Spring. Did I make one called Spring Adaptive? Oh no, Tech 3D. I wasn't called Tech 3D back then. How to model it. There I am.
Create the sketch profile for the coil.
And then make that a driven dimension. Right, and then I do coil height, revolution in height, and then so the coil goes slightly above that, but then you've got to subtract the diameter of that. Yeah, it does. It extends above the top part, but then I would do spring height parameter, then minus 1.5, because that's the diameter.
Is spring height minus
1.5, and that brings it down. Okay, so that's what I've done.
Okay,
and I'm pretty sure I think I did drive adaptivity as well.
That's how you do it. So the key.
Yeah, that's how you do it, right? So that's how I did it. I thought it was familiar.
So you'll
Let's
see that my
see where he goes
profile
with
is
this.
pre-selected, and then we want to click in our axis selection filter box.
See, if you had have used a center line for the like a proper sketch center line, it would have automatically.
You'll see we got our blue line, so let's go ahead and select this.
You wouldn't have had to
that I
manually
put into
select the axis.
Okay, and you'll see it gives me a preview of the coil. Now we want to make sure our method is set properly for this particular use case, which revolution and height is what I want to use. So it's going to count how many turns are in this coil and then its overall height. So this looks good to me. Now we're going to clear the height box, and so to have the proper adaptive characteristics of this spring, you want to go over to the right and click on this little arrow, okay? Click on that arrow and then click on select feature dimension again.
You don't need to do that.
And now we can click on this dimension.
You can just click the dimension, it'll just put it in straight away.
Cursor. When we click on that, it populates the height field with a tag designated
select
as
feature dimension. I think is if you cheers Intel. Select feature dimension. I think if you select an existing 3D feature, it'll give you options for other dimensions. I think
D0. So this tag is essentially just a name that's associated with this particular dimension here. Okay, so depending on how many dimensions you have before this particular one in your assembly, this could be called D5, D10, so on and so forth. But
or spring height. I think that's what I called mine, like spring height.
Again, since I didn't know what this particular dimension was called, that's why I used that select feature dimension option. Now, before we move on, I need to add another element to this height setting, because if I were to just click OK, some of the spring would be cut off at the top here.
No.
So we need to take away the diameter of the cross section to account for that. So we'll just add this
minus 0.135 perhaps?
0.135, which is the diameter of the cross section for the spring. And now when it draws the spring, it'll set flush against this top face. And again, I have my close start and close end settings set appropriately such that I get a little bit more of the spring setting.
I can't claim that he's watched my video and copied it.
So,
it's math.
And
it's a very similar technique.
So let's go ahead and take a section view of that. This top plate, we're going to right click on that and go to drive. And let's just verify that all of our settings are properly set. So our start looks good. Our end setting looks good. Okay, so we're getting 1/4 of an inch of compression. And we have this drive adaptivity box checked. So again, that will allow these adaptive parts to change as the location of the parts that they're referencing are moving. Okay, and then our increment looks good. So we're taking 50 steps here. So we'll go ahead and hit this reverse arrow and see what happens. So as we hit reverse, you'll see the spring is beginning to compress. And now let's jump to our more complicated second example where we take a look at a valve train assembly. We'll hit play. You'll see the camshaft rotates and pushes up on that follower and it pushes down on the valve. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to put a spring setting on this surface here and pushing up against this valve spring retainer. Okay, and I'll select this face here as our starting plane.
Oh, is he going to go through the whole process again?
File, and that'll be. We'll come over here and set creating our 2D sketch.
I think this is where I would kind of turn off. Like, you've done it once. Okay. I'd probably be I think I would probably have started on this one. This looks far more exciting. Like, why wouldn't you just start with this one? Yeah, I think this is like literally the same process. It's very similar to mine, actually.
Go ahead and you can see the follower moves up. The rocker arm goes down, pushes the valve down, which compresses that spring.
That's creamy.
Okay, so it's going to go around one more time. That's all for this segment of the Autodesk Inventor Assembly Creation module, where I showed you how to create and animate adaptive springs. I really hope that you found this tutorial to be helpful and that you put what you've learned into practice so you can continue developing your skills as you work your way through these lessons. Also, before you watch the next video in this series, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay up to date on future content that's going to help you create the future you want for yourself. And of course, don't hesitate to leave a comment.
Hey, there's some bold statements. Going to create the future. I'm one for myself. I want a house in Palm Springs.
Contact page and let me know if there's anything else you'd like to learn about or see on this channel. I really appreciate you choosing to stop by and learn with me, and I'll see you again soon.
Overall, that was awesome. That was really good. A bit longer possibly than it needed to be. I mean, I was the master of dragging shit out for ages and my spring was like 9 minutes. Yeah, I think you possibly could have started with the cam example. and just left it just at that one. I don't know why it needed to be sort of doubled up. I guess showing it in a very simple environment, separated from a real world use case, but then I probably would have been inclined to have just skipped this one until it's just finished, right? Like we've just started the tutorial with, look, I've just done what I've just shown you, and this is what it can look like in a finished environment. But either way, ultimately, that was absolutely brilliant. Love this guy. Very, very good at explaining stuff. He doesn't miss a thing. Very well spoken. And yeah, I think he clearly knows his stuff. Exceptional at explaining things as he's going along. Very confident at what he's saying, and he delivers it in a very, very good way. So I don't know what his background is. I don't know whether he's working for an Autodesk partner. I don't know whether, why there's massive gaps in the content, but maybe he's just hit the wall as well with making tutorials. Like, well, why bother? Nobody's watching them, or very few people appreciate them, at least. I don't know. Or maybe he's trying to monetize them on another platform because they're a lot of work and you don't get anything really in return on YouTube. Don't know, mate. Fair play. They're really good. So, solid recommendation from me for this one. And all jokes aside, I mean, like the spring being, from my video, I can't claim that. Obviously, I can't claim that. There's every chance that millions of other people do exactly the same way. It's just maths, right? It's just one of those things. But no, very good. Absolutely brilliant from Applied, or Engineering Applied. I'll link it down below if you want to go and check out the other videos that he's got on offer. More recent than my one, so a good source of tutorial content. Well explained, well laid out, easy to follow. So go and check those out if you're after some decent tutorials. Good recommendation from me. Right, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. My name's Neil Cross, and I'll see you in the next one. Doodles!